guys, it's me again for today's video. Yeah, here we go as we're on Puerto Rico today. As it will be the only video today, I'll be done with the Americas pretty much. So yeah, here we go. As Puerto Rico is formerly known as the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and previously known and often referred to as Puerto Rico, and is the biggest insular region of the United States of America, and it's situated in the northeastern region of the Caribbean Sea, and is an archipelago that is made up of the main Puerto Rico island and smaller islands such as Vieques, Culebra, and Mana, and its capital city is San Juan, and mostly populated in the country, as Puerto Rico has a population of about 3.4 million. The citizens often refer to the island as Boriquen, as the name is derived from the word Bibliography, the local Latino name, which means land of a valiant lord, and in Spanish the island is known as La Isla del Encanto, which is referred to the island of enchantment. As the history of Puerto Rico started with the settlement of the island by the Tiarid people between 3000 and 2000 BC, as the people were believed to originate from the Orinoco Valley in South America, moving to the Antilles from Trinidad and Tobago to Puerto Rico, as other tribes, for instance the Arawak and Saladoid Indians, inhabited the islands between 430 and 1080. And when Christopher Columbus arrived on the island, the main Aboriginal culture was that of the Taino people, as the historical events and areas we will get to. And as mentioned, Puerto Rico was first occupied by the Tiarid people, as their settlement has been dated to about 4,000 years ago, like 2000 BC, at least. And an archaeological dig in Vieques Island in 1990 found the remains of what is perceived to be an Autorid man, and was dated to about 2000 BC, and between 400 BC and 250 BC, Tiarids were displaced by the Saladoid people, as these were pre-Columbian Aboriginal society of the region in present-day Caribbean and Venezuela, and was centralized along the Orinoco River, and they moved by sea to the Lesser Antilles and finally to Puerto Rico, as Arab people are believed to have settled on the island between the 7th and 11th centuries, so 600 to the end of the 1st century of the next millennia. And yeah. And when Christopher Columbus arrived on the island, there were about 30,000 to 60,000 Taino people, Americans, and they were going by the Kaki Goibana, sorry if I mispronounced that, as they would call the island Boriquen, which means the great land of the valiant and noble lord, and they lived in tiny villages, each governed by the Kaki or chief, as they survived by fishing and hunting, which they done by men, and also gathering of fruits and cassava, which is traditionally done by the women. As the Spaniards arrived by 1493, and by this time the Taino people were already at war with the Carib, who were migrating to the Antilles, as the domination of the island was coming to an end, and the arrival of the Spanish marked the end of the start of their extinction, as the culture is, however, still a part of the contemporary Puerto Rico, as musical instruments instruments such as a guiro and maracas, the hammock and the words such as hurricane, mayagoes, iguan, iguana, arecido, and guanas are examples of the legacy they left behind of the Taino people. As Christopher Columbus set sail on his second voyage to the island on the 23rd of September 1493, with about 17 ships and 1,500 men from Cadiz. As he landed on the island on 19th of November 1493, and he named it San Juan Bautista to honor St. John the Baptist. And he had brought with him a letter of King Ferdinand that had given him authority by the papal bull to take necessary action to expand the Christian faith and the Spanish Empire. As the first settlement was developed in Caparra on the 8th of August 1508 by Juan Ponce de Leon, who was a lieutenant under Columbus and later on served as the first governor of Puerto Rico. And it was late in the 16th century that Spain started colonizing the island, as locals were forced to come in structure of forced labor, as the population sustained a very, very high fatalities due to diseases like smallpox that they had no resistance to, as the Roman Catholic Church also realised the opportunity to expand its influence was participating in colonizing the island. As due to dwindling numbers of local, Spain brought African slaves to the island to provide labour in the cities and coastal ports. And in the 15th, 16th and 17th century, Spain focused on colonial endeavours in the south and north and central policies, as since they were more prosperous. As the arrival of the Bourbon dynasty in Spain in the 1700s, the island started slowly moving towards imperial attention as more roads started linking segregated inland villages and coastal towns. As the coastal towns like Ponce, Mayaguez, and Arecibo started to gain their own importance, as towards the end of the 18th century, trade ships from different countries posed a threat to the tight guidelines of a mercantilist system. As the system turned every colony towards the European metropole and restricted contact with other countries, so as to safeguard its political hold on the island, as a supreme central junta located in Cadiz acknowledged Puerto Rico as an abroad province of Spain. And in the 19th century marked the struggle for independence by the Puerto Ricans, as the rebellion was led by Dr. Ramon Emeterio Benances and Segundo Ruiz Barrios, as the operation was of importance but was controlled very fast by the Spaniards, as more uprisings did occur. And it was not until the 25th of November 1897 that the Prime Minister of Spain, Presidente Mateo Sagasta Sarabasta, granted Puerto Rico an independent government and opened up trade with European colonies and the United States. And a governor was elected by Spain, and he had the power to veto any decision he was not in agreement with. And there he was also elected Parliament, as the island held its first ever elections in March 1898, and on July 17th the same year the island's autonomous government began its operations, but not for long.
Oh my goodness.
As Puerto Rico came under United States military control after ratifying the Treaty of Paris in 1898, as the treaty brought a number of changes to the island, as the name was changed to Puerto Rico, it's like Porto instead of today's spelling of Puerto. RTO. Though it was changed again to Puerto Rico in 1932, as the island currency was also converted from Puerto Rican pesos to United States dollar, as the freedom of religion, assembly, press, and speech were decreed, and an 8-hour day of people working in government was developed, as a public school structure was introduced in the U.S. Postal Service, was expanded to the island as bridges over important rivers were built and highway was enlarged, as the military government also established a centralized public health service for those living on the island, as the military government led to the conception of a new political group that were in support of annexation by the US as a resolution to the colonial situation, as the government was however short-lived as it dissolved on the 2nd of April 1900 with the Furaka Act, which formed a civil government and free trade with the US and Ireland, as the act also led to the conception of a judicial system that was guided by the Supreme Court of Puerto Rico, as the Department of Education was also created and teaching was carried out in English, with Spanish being covered as a special language, as a program by the US included constructing modern economic infrastructure that was inclusive of telegraphs and telephones, electric power systems, ports, roads, hospitals, and agricultural programs. And after World War II, economical, social, and political changes started taking place, and they have continued to shape Puerto Rico's character today. That's all in my mouth. And on the 2nd of November 1948, an act permitting the Puerto Ricans to select their own governor was passed by Congress, U.S. Congress, in the Public Act 600, allowing locals to draft their own constitution, which would create an island's internal government structures. That was signed on the 4th of July 1950, as the act also changed the island's name to the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. And in February 1952, Puerto Rico's constitution was approved in a referendum by voters and was approved by the federal law and ratified in November of that same year. As the same year marks the first time Puerto Rico's flag could be displayed in public after it had been criminalized in 1948. And the first plebiscite on the political status of the island was held on July 25th, 1967, and most voters voted on the continuation of the Commonwealth status. Another plebiscites were held in 1999 and in 1998 to determine Puerto Rico's political system, and both times the status quo remained. In 2012, most locals rejected the present status and voted to become a nation, as the referendum was, however, controversial since the opponents attempted to convince the locals to refrain from voting, as they were arguing that the vote was invalid. As to this day, Puerto Rico is still struggling to determine their political status, and it has been given rights to write its own constitution, which had been approved in 1952, and under an integrated organization of the United States, and its indefinite status will spark political debates that dominate the Puerto Rican society today. And yeah, but even then, there's mythical creatures that could be facts, like the El Chupacabra, as it's one of the most well known on the island, and having even earned time in the news in the past from scared residents who woke up to find their livestock dead with no discernible explanation, as described as a reptilian-like creature with fanged teeth and red eyes. The creature was initially sighted in 1995, when more than 150 farm animals were found either injured or dead, with 2 punctures in the neck. Roaming the more rural areas of the island, as El Chupacabra's reign of terror was enough for the former mayor of Canavana municipality in Puerto Rico to want to search for the alleged Chupacabra, but they were unsuccessful in their find, as an unusual incidents of dead farm animals continue to haunt the island, as well as Gola has mostly stolen its spotlight, as some people say that its eerie screeches during night, alarming those nearby of its presence. So yeah, that is Puerto Rico, and yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you later. As we'll be going on to the Atlantic and maybe on to states that have some recognition, but not enough to create their own country. So yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you later.